And that is the first day of Test cricket at the Assam Cricket Association Stadium in Barshapara in Guwahati. And at 247 for 6, would that be a happier Indian side with that wicket late of Tony Dezorzi? Would it be a happy South African side after winning the toss and batting first, or is it honours even? All that and more on our post-match show or end-of-day show here at Stumps on day one. This is Bajaj Finserv Mutual Funds presents ESPNcricinfo Matchday. We will hear from Vernon Philander in just a moment. Before that, Syed Saba Karim with me. Whose day is that, Saba?
It hangs in balance, Raunak. I think for India, a relief session to some extent, because India was able to pick up those 4 wickets, especially with the second new ball, getting rid of Tony Dezorzi, who was looking very good. That should instill hope in the Indian side. On the other hand, South Africa, because they're able to muster enough runs on board on the first day, that should give them a lot of confidence. If they can add maybe another 60 to 70 runs tomorrow morning, they'll be very happy, because this test match again will be all about first innings.
Okay.
So I think both the teams will have an even contest tomorrow morning. But so far, what an absorbing day's play, Raunak.
Yeah.
Equal opportunities to all. There was numerous scoring opportunities. Many were availed by the South African batters. On the other hand, for the bowlers to pick up wicket, they really had to outthink the batter. So it was such an interesting tussle to see today.
The best part was we're speaking of the players,
yes.
batter and bowler, and not necessarily the surface. Anyway, Vernon Philander, let's get your opening thoughts. And you called it about 80, 90 runs for South Africa. I think 91 in the last session, but they did lose 4 wickets. Would you agree with Saba that it's in the balance, or how would you view where the balance of power stands at the end of day one?
Yeah, I think I'm going to have to be, in the driving seat with South Africa at the moment. I think runs on the board is going to be key in this particular fixture. But I'm a massive believer that the game do reward you, and I think we've saw it, from an Indian perspective. They've done all the hard work before that lunch and interval, and then they got rewarded with the 4 wickets thereafter. But again, I think runs on the board is going to be of paramount importance. And I think at the moment, between the two teams, I think South Africa will probably feel they're happier. Although that last wicket perhaps has dampened the mood. That last hour, 45 minutes when the artificial light started to take effect. Yes, it's a bit of an advantage for the bowling team. But I think India will feel that, knocking over Tony Dezorzi there has opened up an end. But South Africa do bat deep. And I think another 60, 70 runs, they would feel that they've done a wonderful job in this first innings.
Yeah, I'm going to come to that late period of play where the new ball was taken in a moment. But if I could go to perhaps what was the most significant part of that session, if I may say, Vernon, it looked like the wickets fell against the run of play with how well Temba Bavuma and Tristan Stubbs were playing. They lost 3 wickets in 10 overs. Did they lose their way just for a little bit in that final session?
Yeah, I suppose, you look at how, India has made life difficult for them to score. And I think very often as a batter, this game is still about scoring runs. It's still about, batting with some tempo. And you could see, Temba Bavuma was just starting to itch. He couldn't get, the singles that he was after. And then he was forced to play that big shot. And they created their own luck by really squeezing South Africa. A similar sort of a shot, attempted by Vernon a couple of overs later, which led to his downfall as well. So again, if you build the pressure, the game will reward you. And I think it's just a wonderful example of Test match cricket again. The simple basics we talk about, keeping it simple, squeeze the opposition, and therein, your opportunities will come. But I do feel perhaps, I want to be on the side of South Africa, and I say it because they've got runs on the board. But I think, both innings or both sides, first innings is going to be key. I don't think we've seen a massive deterioration of the surface, which is a good sign. So India will feel that, they can still, if they bat well, they can, perhaps bat past South Africa. But I do feel that 3rd and 4th innings is going to be, that's going to be a challenge again, with the surface. I do feel, on day 3 and 4, there will be a lot of assistance, in natural variation in the surface, with the surface obviously being out in the sun and also, start to, get a little bit abrasive.
Yeah, I think it's nice if you say that, if you're going to talk about day 4 or 5, and that there is going to be curiosity and suspense. Let's see how it goes there. But Vernon Philander makes the point of the squeeze applied in the final session, which eventually led to the wickets. India's standout bowler who got the wickets was Kuldeep Yadav, 3 for 48 for him. And he is therefore our Bajaj Finserv Mutual Funds bankable player of the day. All right, 3 wickets, Saba Karim, for Kuldeep Yadav, just when India needed them. Take us through what worked for him today.
He really had to work hard for these wickets, Raunak, and he did his best. Even in the first session, we saw that. Kuldeep Yadav has been India's most improved spin bowler over the past maybe a season and a half. And you can see the reason behind it. He really worked very hard over his bowling. His variations have become far more deceptive. He's using different angles. There is speed in the way he releases the ball. That is why it's not easy for batters to pick him from the hand. And I think he works on these deceptions. And I think he's also very adept at understanding what the batter is trying to do. And I think that combination with Rishabh Pant works very well for him. So these subtle nuances of how to pick wickets, how to understand the batter's movement or the batter's mindset, all that has helped him to grow in confidence. And we see that reflect in his performance.
To probe that further, on our last show, we were talking of how well Tristan Stubbs seems to be playing him, reading him. They play for the same franchise and all that. And the wicket of Stubbs, who was well set, he's just pushed one across. Just take us through the skill there of a batter who until then was playing him quite nicely.
Yeah, I think one mistake which Tristan Stubbs had to do was against Kuldeep Yadav, especially on that delivery. The one he was not able to read. He felt that the ball will come into the right-hand batter, but this was the wrong one from Kuldeep Yadav with a lot of zip, and he actually lured Tristan Stubbs to play that shot. And I think that is where Kuldeep Yadav has that edge over most of these foreign batters. You try and decipher him as much as possible, but he always has something up his sleeve to upset the batter, and that's what happened in the case of Tristan Stubbs. Very subtle changes in his bowling style or in his variation. And all that worked very well for Kuldeep today.
Yeah, smart catch from KL Rahul as well. But let's get the bowler in on this as well, Vernon. A couple of those wickets, especially Rickleton right after the first break, the tea break. And Vian Mulder looked filthy for having almost given it away. Now, that's the impression we get looking at the pictures. But why don't you take us through how much of a part the bowlers played in that?
Yeah, I think it's a wonderful, opportunity when you look at these breaks. I think I always, sense that there's an opportunity, to get it better because he has to start out again. And I think Rickleton, having played so well before that tea break, obviously was highly upset, with himself. And I think it's perhaps just the kind of shot that he attempted at the time. I think, just trying to open the blade, almost trying to run it down to third man kind of thing. And then obviously the feint, it's still a good catch. But at the end of the day, you work so hard to get yourself in. And I think the last thing you want to do is give your wicket away in that kind of fashion. I think many will sum it up perhaps as a soft dismissal. But again, I'm going to illustrate the point that, you work hard, and as a bowler, sometimes, you have to come back third, fourth spells. But at the end of the day, when you've done all that hard work, the game will and certainly does reward you from time to time. But I just feel, this test match, perhaps the surface, given the surface, I think we've got a good surface here. So all skills are on display. And just a little bit on the Tristan Stubbs dismissal, I think it's a wonderful piece of bowling by Kuldeep Yadav. Reason being, because Tristan Stubbs could pick him. So he's gone slow through the air and really set him up for a couple of overs to bowl that quicker slider. So again, there's, just so many ways and methods, to really, that you can, target a particular batter. So smart bowling. But again, I think, the bowlers are going to be put to the test on this particular surface. And for once, they're going to have to work a little bit harder in order to gain, the credits of picking up wickets.
Yeah, at that point Vernon makes, that in the last test, it seemed like Kuldeep Yadav was not having the impact that Jadeja was, that Simon Hammer was. But when you have a good surface, that's when we are talking more of the skill of Kuldeep Yadav.
Yeah, absolutely right, Raunak. In fact, I had a chat with Kuldeep Yadav at the Eden Gardens, and he made it very clear that on that kind of a surface, for him to bowl with speeds of 90 plus is not easy. And that's the kind of Eden Garden was on the slower side, so you needed bowlers who can pitch the ball at the right area with the requisite pace. And I think Kuldeep Yadav, to a large extent, was unable to do so. And this is an ideal surface for him because it offers him that bounce, and so he can use his variations to great effect. So that's the difference. I think from India's perspective, it's also equally important to understand the strength and weaknesses of your bowlers, especially of your spinners, when to use them, how to use them, and against whom to use them. But I think overall, these are great conditions for Kuldeep Yadav, and I'm sure tomorrow also in the first half, Kuldeep Yadav will be tough to negotiate.
All right, well, Kuldeep Yadav, 3 wickets for him, and he'll be hungry for more tomorrow. But for his performance on day one, he's our Bajaj Finserv Mutual Fund's bankable player of the day. Right, let's very quickly run through the other major talking points of the day. And Vernon, why don't you carry on the point you made a little while earlier? It seemed like the light was fading and almost like the artificial lights were taking over. I was telling Saba while we were watching that it's got the feeling of a day-night test almost. It wasn't sort of twilight, it was like you could see the cross shadows of the floodlights. In that period is when Mohammad Siraj and Jasprit Bumrah are bowling with the new ball. We had almost 82 overs of play today. Now the wicket of Tony de Zorzi falls. How do you feel about that?
It always seems to happen, when the wicket fall, umpires get together and obviously call it a day. And I mean, as a batter, you certainly feel hard done by, because you just never know, when that moment's going to arrive and when the umpires are going to get together and say, that the light is unfit. I mean, as a bowler whom have been there, it is certainly an advantage, for a bowler when the light starts fading and the artificial lights start taking effect. So I'd love to see, there be a little bit more consistency around that. I mean, there is light meters around these days, but you certainly feel and you certainly want the game to be played in as much natural light as possible. Of course, there's the fan aspect, so you want to prolong the days for, obviously, as long as you possibly can, but I still feel that there is still an unfair advantage towards the bowling side, when that artificial light do start to obviously effect, later on in the day.
Yeah, I mean, just to point out for the benefit of our viewers now, it's entirely in the umpire's hands. They
also,
make
more so
their
the
markings.
first day.
Yes.
Raunak, first day when you set the benchmark.
Yeah.
Once you have a look at the light meter. So from second day onwards, players get used to it. But in fading light, to play against the second new ball, especially when you're up against Bumrah and Siraj, it's not an easy ask at all. And I think South Africa, I'm surprised Vernon was not more outspoken, because I think if the South African camp would be feeling terrible about losing Tony Zorzi's wicket in the last over, Vernon.
Yeah, Vernon?
No, absolutely. I mean, if I can just weigh in here, I think absolutely, and it's such a valid point you make. And irrespective, who's batting and who's bowling at the time, I think for both teams, I'm going to have the same sentiment where I'm going to say, I mean, I think it was a couple of overs before that where the umpires already started looking at each other about the light. So why still allow that new ball to be taken? And I mean, I'm gonna say this out loud. I mean, whether it was South Africa bowling as well, I'd have had the same point to get across. So yeah, I think it's something that there will have to be a little bit more consistency about, because I mean, ultimately you don't want to lose an in-batter like Tony de Zorzi. I think he could really be the difference between South Africa winning or losing this particular test match, and so could it have been any of the top order batters for India.
Yeah, I mean, it was funny that I think the moment that Bumrah was sort of trying to spot the ball on the outfield as a deep square leg, deep fine leg fielder is when they decided, right, you know what, we can't see the ball. So that's the problem, Vernon. Their batters were just behaving themselves. You need a little bit of theatrics, some of those smart plays where you just go, oh, can't see the ball. We've seen that happen in India, South Africa before. Yeah.
The one guy that normally used to do it, he's sitting in the commentary box there, Dale Steyn. He used to be the expert.
That's a good one, yeah.
All right. Well, just for the benefit of our viewers, I'll point out now, just to remind you, that it is the umpires entirely that take this call. It used to be the batting team and all that in the years gone by, but they set the standard, they set the benchmark with the reading, and that, like Saba Karim says, is going to be applied for the rest of this test match. And the other point, of course, is both boards either agree or disagree before a series whether the floodlights indeed will be used when the test series happens. So that's obviously been accepted, and you knew floodlights are going to be playing a part when we have cricket so far east this time of year. So there you have it, something for the teams to contend with going forward. Let's have a look at just have a quick chat about tomorrow morning's session as well and how we see that going. It's been, I think, for all accounts, more than passing marks for Guwahati's first ever test match surface, at least for day one.
Yeah, in a big way.
How do you see it going tomorrow?
I expect the wicket to hold firm, and that is good news for the South African lineup. They do have Muthuswamy, who has batted quite well. He's more than capable batter, and I think his track record at the first class level shows that. And along with him, Kyle Vernon also has shown a lot of promise. He's got some good scores under his belt. So I think South Africa would be banking on this partnership to grow. And if that happens, then that will be a major concern for India. India, on the other hand, they've taken the second new ball. They would expect Bumrah and Mohammad Siraj to try and wrap up the South African innings as soon as possible. If India can wrap up South Africa, by 300, below 300, that'll be great news for India.
Vernon, on your point, while we seem like much better pitch than the first test, which of course might be a pretty low benchmark, but again, a number of batters getting into their 30s, 40s. We haven't seen a 50 yet in this innings, and I wonder if that tells us anything, especially after we had that lovely chat with you and Saba earlier on when we talk about skill and application of the modern day batter.
Yeah, I certainly feel it's got nothing to do with the actual surface. I just think it's got to do with, India bowling a brilliant spell and really not allowing, any of those batters to kick on. I think, you make mention there's plenty of starts, and South Africa will be kicking themselves because it is something that they really pride themselves on, one batter to get in and get a big 100 and allow the rest of the batters to play those little cameos around him. So, but again, I think it just speaks to, the amount of pressure that, that India has, obviously, exerted out of the South African batting lineup. But I just, given the fact that you've got, still, you've got Calvaraina there with Mutasamy, and that's why I'm such a massive fan of Mutasamy. It's just the way he goes about collecting his runs here as well. I think he brings a sense of calmness. There's never a panic. And also as a bowler, I mean, you don't always feel that you can knock him over. I think somehow, he finds a way of gutting it out. I think it's something that we speak about, at length when it comes to Test match cricket. And he certainly has that character in him. He's a gutsy player. And he certainly collects some valuable runs, lower down. He trusts the lower order. And I certainly feel that if South Africa are to get to that 80 runs that they feel they need to get, still in the morning, he's going to have to be a key player for them in the morning. But I do feel, given the nature of the surface, I think there's a couple of partnerships that I feel, he can form with the lower order. But also, I mean, with that new ball is always a dangerous bet for India as well, because from a seam bowler's perspective, very often you can feel that you need to knock over the lower order, and by doing so, you can come a touch straight there and offer up some scoring opportunity. And I think, the batters to come, they're all, aggressive in nature, so I do feel they'll latch onto any scoring opportunity.
All right. Well, they still have Marco Jansen to come. Muthuswamy is fresh of that 89 not out, but he was player of the series in Pakistan, so he can more than have a say in this innings. Right, before we just wrap things up, why don't we just get a quick response on the last time we chatted, and I must advise our viewers to go and watch the lunchtime show, the second show, where Saba and Vernon have really had a terrific chat on pitches, expectations, how they should be, how we look at pitches that seam versus pitches that spin. It's all on our previous show. But after all that happened, Travis Head has played arguably one of the great innings in Test cricket and has finished a 2-day Ashes Test. So let's get Vernon and Saba to just weigh in on that now that we've actually seen what happened. And they've smashed 200 plus at whatever it is they did. But Vernon, Philander, Travis Head's innings, I wonder if you have something you'd want to share on what we've witnessed today.
Yeah, absolutely amazing. I think given, what we spoke about, in that lunchtime show about, showing a little bit of determination, tightening up a little bit, from a technique point of view. But it just goes to show, once you chase these lower scores, if you can get one better in and you really can take the game on, it makes life so much difficult, for the opposition bowlers. And I think given the nature of that surface, there has been a bit of lateral movement, but he's almost taken the lateral movement out of the game by being ultra aggressive. And as a bowler, you are now forced to, adjust your plan. So, I mean, they could have probably targeted him, a little bit more with the short pitch bowling, which they haven't done because there was obviously, a massive amount of, lateral movement on offer. But again, it's innings like that that define players. It's innings like that that defines, series and the outcome of series. But he obviously made up his mind before the time and said, you know what, I'm not going to be, a cherry to be knocked over here. So he said, you know what, I'm going to be the player to make that, to make the player, and it's paid off.
Saba?
This is like Aldous Huxley's book, The Brave New World. This is a new world, and I think batters need to back the strength, and I think that's what Travis Head did here. You need to, as a batter, you go in with so much of confidence, you feel that this is the best method to score runs, and you need to stick to your game plan. So yes, I mean, on the other hand, we do talk about grit and determination and the right kind of technique. But Travis Head, he felt that this is the wicket where he can go out and be ultra aggressive. and it has reaped him great dividends. So you need to find your own way of scoring runs, Raunak.
Yeah, I think Steve Smith, who was captain for this test, said at the end of it that it was probably the best time to bat in that last session. I don't know if he's taking some of it away from Travis Head, but it was quite extraordinary. He does love the third week of November, does Travis Head, and that's where we wrap things up. Thank you very much, Saba, Karim, and Vernon Philander. Maybe one quick prediction. Vernon, where will this game be at lunchtime on day 2?
South Africa probably be bowled out by lunchtime, but they'll be in the vicinity of about 3:20, 3:30, hopefully.
Okay, that's a high-scoring session. It's not something
Well, if that
necessarily
happens, then
seen.
India is in difficult waters, because I expect India to bowl out South Africa below 300 and maybe get to about 20, 30 for no loss, hopefully.
Okay, why don't we pick up the chat then? Thank you very much. When I said lunch tomorrow, I of course meant tea tomorrow.
Yes.
Everybody knows that. Saba, thank you. Vernon, thank you. Always a pleasure talking cricket, and we will look forward to continue to do so and look forward to your company when we're live next, which will be after the first session of play, just to clear all doubt, when tea will be taken at 11 o'clock in Guwahati. Join us then for Bajaj Finserv Mutual Fund's ESPN Cricinfo Matchday.